Hi, this is Judy with Handcrafted Greetings, and today I am going to show you how to do the stitching on this card. To make this card, you will need Lavender Fusion, Watermelon Fusion, and Summer Days cardstock, Journey squares, Journey rectangles, 2U die set and 2U stamps, and the Black Licorice True Color Fusion, a mouse mat or a corkboard with some push pins, and some embroidery floss that matches your cardstock. I used DMC 961, 725, and 553. Use the largest Journey rectangle cutting die to cut your background. Use the three innermost square cutting dies to cut your squares from the Lavender Fusion, Watermelon Fusion, and Summer Days. Before I can start stitching, I need to punch the holes that overlap. I'm going to start with the Lavender Fusion, and from the bottom right, I'm going to count 8 holes up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and I'm going to mark that with a pin. And then I'm going to count 10 in from the bottom left. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and mark that hole. Next, I'm going to take the Watermelon Fusion, and I'm going to count 7 in from the top right. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 right there. That is going to go where that first pin was. So I'm just going to pull that out. And then I'm going to count 5 up from the bottom left. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That hole will line up right there. So those holes are lined up. And next I'm going to take the Summer Days, and from the top right I'm going to count in 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4, put a pin there, and then 6 up from here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Those holes are going to overlap, and then 3 up from the bottom left is going to overlap with 7 over from the bottom right. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So that hole right there, and those 2 overlap. So now this is where they're going to overlap. I'm going to put a little piece of tape just to hold these together. And then I am going to get out my Journey Platinum die cutting machine and finish cutting the overlaps. Okay, now we're ready to pierce the rest of those holes. So I'm going to take this die and I'm going to just set it right on top, and it pops right into where the previous holes were. And I'm going to set that down and run it through. All right, now if I take that up, you can see that those holes have now been poked through there. And now I'm going to need to do this one. I'm going to need to remove that tape, but I want to hold this in place. So I'm going to, before I remove that, I'm going to flip it over and put another piece of tape right here, and I'm just going to make sure that that tape, oops, does not cover any of these holes. There. Because now I'm going to be doing the pink one. So I've got the yellow tape on there so that it's, or the tape on the yellow one so that it's not going to interfere with the next die down. Now I've taped the back of that so I can take this tape off. This is a little bit fiddly, but you want the holes to go all the way through and you want everything to line up. So there's that. And just slide that in those holes. Okay, so now that set of holes has been punched. Now the last thing that I need to do is this small set onto the pink. So I'm going to put a piece of tape right here. Make sure it's not overlapping any of the small. Let's see. Yeah, I want to take that one off. And that one doesn't need to be on there anymore. So I just, because none of the yellow holes go through that one. Now those are together, so I can take this off. Take my smallest die, set it on there. Okay. So now all the holes are marked. Now it went all the way through on this one. They did not go all the way through on this one, so I'm going to need to run it through again. Just by itself. And the same is true for the Lavender Fusion. So let's see, I need the smallest one for that. Oops, sometimes those magnets don't cooperate. There, just set that on there. And this is the medium size one. Set that on. Last time through. All right. All the holes are punched. Now I am ready to put these together with some journey tape. They'll go just like that. Okay, now it's time to tape these together. I'm going to take some journey tape, but you don't need a whole lot, just enough to hold it together. I'll put some there. Make sure that you line up so that you can see through the holes. This is fun to do when I'm trying to hold it under a camera. Okay, there. Got that one. And now the little one. Make sure you don't get it over the top of any of the holes. And line that up. Okay, there. Now we're ready to start stitching. And I'm going to start stitching on the Lavender Fusion. I'm going to stitch in yellow on the Lavender Fusion, in lavender on the Watermelon, and in pink on the Summer Days. I'm going to be using a number 10 quilting needle, and the reason that I use this, and it's pretty small, but I really like using these because they have a very small eye. They go through the holes really well. I'm going to start with my DMC 725. I'm going to pull off about 3 feet of this. If I was doing normal embroidery, I would never use 3 feet of thread, but these stitches are really long, so you go through 3 feet pretty quickly. And I just want one strand, and if you're not used to doing embroidery, you might not know this trick. I know I've seen a lot of people separate one strand and they'll pull it out this way, and that makes a huge mess. You end up with a big knot, and it's just messy. The way that you separate a strand of embroidery floss is you pull out, you separate one strand, you hold on really lightly with your other hand, and just make sure you keep a hold of it. You don't want to hold it super tight, and you just pull. Just like that. And it looks like it's making a mess in your hand, but don't worry, as long as you keep a hold right here and just pull straight out, you're not going to get a knot. And you get that all the way out, and now this, no knots. Beautiful. So something to keep in mind if you've never used embroidery floss and haven't done that. I know for years I did the whole pull it apart this way and end up with big old snarly mess. So I am going to thread this needle on camera. Let's see if I can do that. No. Okay. And the way that you do paper embroidery, there are no knots. You don't want to tie a knot behind your paper. It'll just make a mess, and it'll just pull through anyway. So I just use a piece of tape. Tape that puppy down. Doesn't matter, nobody's going to see it. And I'm going to start at the top point. I'm going to come up from the back. And then I'm going to stitch down. I'm going to count 9 in from the corner. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And that's where I'm going to make my first down stitch. And then I'm always working I'm always going to work clockwise. So clockwise from that, I come up. And then this is going to go in one hole clockwise from the other one. And you just keep working up. Every time you do an up stitch, you're coming up right next to the one that you just stitched down. So, and just keep working clockwise. And if you're not careful, you'll tie a knot like that there. That came right out. That's if you use a good quality floss, you won't have nearly as many knots when you're pulling through. So there's another reason to use a good coated floss. Plus it just has a nice shine to it. Okay, when you run out of thread, just take a piece of tape, and tape it down. Make sure that you don't cover any of the other holes with your tape. I'm going to tape this right next to the one that I just finished. And it'll be the next hole. So right there. And just keep working clockwise. Eventually you are going to start overlapping stitches, and when you're all the way done, every single one of these holes is going to have 2 strings. So it's going to have a V. So every single one of these. So sometimes people start getting confused when they get to this point, and but just keep going. Okay, I'm done stitching. That took me, I know some people asked how long it takes. That one took me about 20 minutes. It's the biggest one, and it's significantly takes quite a bit longer than the next one down. So that was about 20 minutes. We're done. Just tape the end to the back. cut it off, and we're ready to start the next one. I like to always start with the top corner on these. So this one I'm going to start here, and I'm going to use my, is this 553 is the DMC number for this floss. And this one I'm going to put on the watermelon fusion. Okay, for this one, I'm going to count 7 in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Right there. And again, working clockwise. And we're just going to go right over the top. It gets a little tricky when you're overlapping strings, but it's not impossible. You can see where the holes are. Same thing. Continue all the way around till every hole has 2 stitches coming through it. So basically you go around the square twice. Oops. And I won't bore you with the details, but you can see that this one is going quite a bit faster. I'm already almost done with one side, and I haven't even had to switch thread. So not as many holes, much faster to do. Okay, the second one's done, and now I'm getting ready to finish the very last one. So again, I'm going to start at the top corner, and this one I am counting in 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And this one should go pretty quick. Using 2 strands of floss, stitch around the outside of the whipped cream cardstock rectangle. Now that I'm all done with the stitching, I'm ready to assemble the card. So for my background, I'm using whipped cream cardstock. And I have already colored my cake focal. And I'm going to pop the stitched background up on foam squares. And I'm also going to pop this up on a foam square. I want this at an angle right about there. And finally the cake. And I want to be careful with my placement of my foam squares on this, because this upper part doesn't need to have any squares behind it. So right about there, that should do it. looks about right. And there, all done.